I read somewhere that you recorded how different ice creams crack.
They can tell that the chocolate is high quality because of the sound of the crack.
A common denominator wherever you are in the world.
Make us drool. Talk to us about it.
Shall I bring now?
Where we are not showing the ice cream, we're shooting black and white, which is not very appetite appeal. Running a campaign for ice cream in winter.
It's the squeeze with a crack.
Kate Moss, during the Vivienne Westwood fashion show, walked the catwalk with a magnet.
They didn't use AI, so that's a good thing.
If the sloppy part of the AI is not serving a creative purpose for the idea, then don't use AI, like get into a room with brilliant cultural and people from different regions and different backgrounds and defining what is the future of pleasure in 10 years advance.
So welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here, Tobias and Bruno. Would you like to introduce yourselves a bit? Because we've known each other for quite a while now, but for our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do so. I'm Tobias Sparnaaij, born and raised in the Netherlands. Live in Amsterdam right now, working around 12 years in consumer goods. Divided that a bit between a time in beauty and personal care, where I used to work on Vaseline skincare, in both local and European roles, as well as global. And after that, made the move to the exciting world of ice cream, very much sensorials, indulgence. Did that for Europe first. Then I went after that to the local team in the Netherlands. And then I moved to the global team, where I'm now leading the global Masterbrand marketing. And so communication basically, as well as innovation on sticks. So super exciting. That's a bit about me.
Nice.
Well, I'm Bruno. I'm from Brazil, born and raised in Brazil.
Where in Brazil?
São Paulo. I always work in advertising agency side, in strategy specifically. I began my career on working on a smaller Brazilian agents, but working with big brands in Brazil. And then I moved to David to start working with more global brands. And I started working with Burger King in Brazil. It was amazing. Coca-Cola, a lot of Mondelez brands as well. And then I also work in RGA. I think RGA was an agency for me that brought me a different perspective from advertising, because I went from communication that, well, not traditional communication, but communication as we know, campaign, social, and went to RGA. It was digital transformation. It was a different thing. And I also started working a lot with technology brands like Google, YouTube. It was an amazing experience to get, I think, more of the universe of advertising or, experience, all these things. But then I went back to David for another run, stayed there for, I think, 2 years. And then I moved to Spain, where I'm based now. So it's been 4 years now almost that I work at Lola, working directly with all of the ice cream brands we have there. And it's funny, my husband always says in Portuguese that I'm the sorveteiro, which translating would be ice cream man. So I'm the ice cream man because I always work with, first was Magnum and then Cornetto, and then also some talents in the US, now some of the brands that the company is launching. So I become the sorveteiro, I guess.
So I guess for the 4.5 years that you're in Europe, you've worked together?
Yes. So first, Toby joined the team shortly after I joined as well. So most of the times that I've been working with Magnum, I've been working with Toby.
And we've been always working actually globally. So despite us being based in Europe, they're truly our partner to launch an impactful campaign globally.
That's one of the things I love about the situation that Lola is based in Madrid, and they do award-winning global work, and it just changes a bit the perception of where you can have this kind of level of craft coming from. I mean, we're always we're thinking these things come always from the US, and I love that example.
Well, or in Europe, probably are not based in Madrid. I mean, we always say that, Spain and Portugal are countries that, even though they have a lot of creative potential, when you go into the global map, they're not the first choice. Probably these big agencies are based in the UK or Netherlands or, France. And I guess it's funny or it's interesting how Lola changed this narrative a bit and created this powerhouse based on a country that was not maybe a first choice, for client side specifically.
Well, maybe we started from London, but the founders are Greek, and a few years ago, I think COVID helped a lot. Like, who would imagine that a company with Greek founders would work for the Coca-Cola company globally, or Nestle, or Philip Morris, or etc. And I think that examples like Lola, I'm very happy to see them.
And borders are fluid a bit nowadays as well, right? We're living in such a globalized world that actually it doesn't really matter where you're based, as long as you have very passionate people working on it. Together you can create beautiful things. So if that's from Madrid, if that's from Amsterdam, if that's from the US or from the UK, nowadays, does that really impact it? I think it's true that your location, is obviously determining some of the vibrant energy that you get from places. But I think in general, does it really matter where you're based nowadays?
It's true.
What did you made me think now of the move of Magnum to the heart of Amsterdam. What does this signify? Do you think there is you will be getting this energy from downtown Amsterdam, and that this might somehow impact the...
Well, Amsterdam is a very cosmopolitan city, we have more than 160 cultures and nationalities in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam specifically. So I think it's this melting pot of culture which represents truly a global view. And I think being at the center of that just gives you a lot of perspective, and that from a creative point of view, innovation point of view, it gives people energy. And I think coming from a bit more corporate Unilever world where we were based in Rotterdam, it was great to get these new vibes. And you notice that across all of the employees that work for the Magnum ice cream company nowadays, it does bring this new vibe. We're all ready for this new chapter to go together and create beautiful impact, pleasure, and truly smiles on people's faces.
Well, you just got into the next question I would ask, which is the spin-off from Unilever. It's when I got so excited with this episode because it's so rare to find a company of this size spinning off from a company like Unilever, but still it's like you're a startup with money, and that's first of all, it's cool in itself, but it's also you got a new account suddenly. Like I was thinking, like as an agent, another global account, not doing anything. But it's a lot of the things I want us to talk today have to do with like how you're like it's pivotal moment, like you're on your own. You need to define like what's now the Magnum ice cream company way of marketing is, because you have all of this heritage, but then you have all these people coming in with a company that wants to define. How has this transition been so far? It's been almost a year.
It's been almost a year. I personally very, very excited of the transition. I think, what we take from Unilever is obviously the brand building fundamentals, the true power of brands is something that I think this company will continue to leverage. But I think the fact of that you're one of the categories versus the category is a very different approach, right? We can now go all hands-on, completely focused on consumer insight to real innovation, market-making innovation, all focused on ice cream. And I think that shift in terms of also speed and agility, because of the focus, the lines are shorter, we're a smaller company, so we can make decisions faster, to almost of the fact of where you say we adopt sort of owner and founder mindset is something that allows us to move at speed and truly move the needle from a market-making potential of the company. So I think it's just super, super exciting from a chapter point of view, and also getting people, that were part of Unilever versus people that are now part of the Magnum ice cream company or have not been part of Unilever. That melting pot together also brings fresh and new perspectives across either consumer goods or any other industry, which creates this vibe of entrepreneurial spirit, and I think that's just so exciting.
I was shocked to hear you say that there are 12, 13 people in the global Magnum team,
yes,
which is so lean. Like if you think of a multi-billion-dollar brand having...
Yeah, it's true.
How many exactly people in the global team?
Yeah, so
did I get it right? 12?
Yeah, around 13 people indeed are part of the global Magnum brand. So Magnum is of course part of the Magnum ice cream company. So within the Magnum ice cream company, we have a bit more than 100 brands. But Magnum, yes, being a flagship brand of the company, being led so lean, is a sign, because I think it also shows that with such a lean team, you can have the expertise, but you can also have a structure that allows you to act with speed and impact. And I think that is something that truly differentiates us as well from some of the other iconic brands in consumer goods.
You starting to define this Magnum way of marketing or way that we see brands. Like if I think of Unilever versus like the big opposite, which is like P&G. Like you have P&G, which is more functional brand. Like what's the functional purpose of the brand versus Unilever, which is more about, I don't know, real beauty and with Dove and like you can
platform building.
Well, yes, and what is the direction that's Magnum is? Which side are they going to be leaning more?
Yeah. I think it's tough to define how the future will turn out in that sense, but I think, like I said, from Unilever, the real power of brands is something we will absolutely not let go of. And I think combining that with a mindset that combines both functional and emotional benefits together is something really beautiful. So obviously the product needs to be the highest quality. We need to deliver value to our consumers, but the way we talk about it needs to be distinctive, you know, and together with the guys at Lola and our other agencies, we really want to make sure that we don't forget about the emotion that people bring, because ice cream is emotion too. I mean, seeing a child eating an ice cream for the first time, right? You remember that smile on the face, you know?
I'm gonna have the smile when we eat one.
Yeah, it's truly, it brings smiles across the world, and it's such a fun category to work on, you know? And obviously Magnum is sort of adult ice cream brand within that, but think about ice cream dynamic. It's so much fun. It brings so much pleasure on people's faces. So, you know, having a combination between functional and emotional attributes is something we will always have, because ice cream is much more than a product, it's an emotion.
Yeah, I think also now that we've been working, well, the past 2 years, year and a half, as Unilever is a different, well, a separate brand, and we saw a lot of increased speed in the briefings. Also, we feel like right now we have a lot more space and agility to do some things that we would love to. And I feel like obviously there's the good part and the bad part of everything, you know. Even different marketing models like Mondelez or P&G, they have the good part and the bad part. Like all of that has two sides. And I guess Unilever, with all of this brand building and the power of it, which is the good side, there's also some other parts that sometimes create a barrier when we wanted to really bring some idea to life, something that was huge and sometimes really difficult to, you know, get approval or, you know, get the idea moving up. And I guess now that we are as a separate brand, we have more control of that. And I mean, we're just discussing that we approve a campaign 2 months ago, it's already shoot, it's almost on air. That's a level of agility that we didn't have before because of the process, because, you know, the size of the company as well. All of that influences how fast or how big you can go for an idea.
Am I correct to understand you haven't defined yet a framework for the Magnum way of marketing?
We have a foundation, but we're building as we speak, right? So I think we always saying we're constructing the airplane while flying. And I think that's just something super exciting. So we have a certain level of foundation, like the big brands that we're building on. There's so much occasions out there that we can still go after and truly grow the impact of ice cream globally, that I think it's just something super exciting to go after those occasions, define them further. What's the right format? What's the right product to play in? And that's not even only applicable to Magnum as a brand, but to the overall Magnum ice cream company with all of its brands in the portfolio, because they all have a different role to play.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like you, in this more startup phase of the company, it's like we don't need the frameworks, the whatever it might be from Unilever, the SASE framework, whatever, for us to define how are cutting straight to the chase. We're looking at we carry the fundamentals, we know them, and we're not restricting ourselves to at least a framework right now.
Frameworks and processes can slow you down, right? And I think that should sometimes, shouldn't be kind of an objective, right? To just have a framework and process in place. You need frameworks, you need processes. I think it also lays a certain foundation. But if you think about speed, even in terms of unlocking investments, these type of things, the fact that you're a pure play ice cream company that acts in the snacking world allows you to unlock investments faster, So in terms of frameworks and processes, they're great as long as they support a longer term strategy as well and doesn't slow you down. And I think we have such a momentum right now, which is so exciting, that I think frameworks and processes, of course, we have them in place, and it's important, but let's make sure it doesn't slow us down in terms of being able to leverage opportunities that we see in the market. And I think that's the same with you guys, right? If we brief you guys, it's still important to pay a lot of attention.
Yeah, obviously. No, I think one thing that we always say internally with Magnum, but also other brands, is that it's an evolution, it's not a revolution. I feel like this new moment is an evolution for Magnum as a whole company. As we were saying, we are obviously having and keeping the heritage that, one of the biggest companies in the world gave us, but also we are also understanding the things that maybe wasn't working the same way or the way we wanted, and we are evolving that. We are gaining speed, gaining independence, gaining autonomy, all of these other things that comes together with it. And I guess is what defines a little bit of this new moment of our relationship.
There are a greater appetite for risk as well that has come with this it's more startup mentality, because I'm understanding it would be harder to experiment with things, although a lot of the amazing work we've seen in the last years were under Unilever, so I'm not sure. I'm just thinking whether...
I would say that as a brand, Magnum has always been very brave. I guess when from my experience working with other brave brands like Burger King, Coca-Cola, I guess, they share the same level of courage here. At least from my perspective, we didn't had a lot of trouble trying to show the value of courage and bravery in advertising. Everyone at Magnum already asked that from us, and I guess that comes from the long relationship we have with the brand. Also, the trust we build each other. We know really we really build the best work that we can. And I guess there's another part that is also part of the culture in the company, which is awesome for us, is that we always push to make the best work that we can, the one that is really going to move people. And most of the times, the work that are going to move people are the one that requires a little bit more bravery, I guess.
And I think just to add to that, if you think about the culture that was inherently part of Magnum, we also owe it to our predecessors that helped constituting the brand that it is nowadays, of that there was always a culture like feelings over fear, and I think
I love that.
That's really, really showing that the people that work on this brand genuinely wanted to be brave, and do things that have never done before, because there's so much you can do with our category credentials, right? Where you think about let's make delicious ice cream. Let's make it taste good and show up in a good way. But, we want to do things that stand out in the category, and we want to keep on doing that. And in order to be able to do that, courage is needed. So, it has been inherently part of the culture that our predecessors have been created. And we can be just only feeling really privileged personally of being able to carry on that culture and welcome people to embrace that culture. So that's also something, even though we're now the Magnum ice cream company, Magnum as a brand has never let go of that, because it has been an integral part of the brand itself. And that, it makes
Well, that's great. Just thinking that all of that now is an entire company on its own, and that kind of culture.
And I think that this bravery shows up really quickly when we see the work, because most of the times we're creating things, they usually gonna, make the regular marketeer a little bit. You have the butterflies on their stomach, I'm not sure. For example, when we did Find Your Summer, where we had a campaign for an ice cream, like a consumer good, a food product, where we are not showing the ice cream, we're shooting black and white, which is not very appetite appeal. Running a campaign for ice cream in winter. All of these things would make a regular marketeer pause a little bit. And I guess is where the Magnum in general, everyone that was behind the brand was like, no, let's just accelerate that. Let's just push it forward rather than let's pause and understand if it makes sense or not. Like everyone was so like, yeah, no, this is another level of challenging the norms and the creativity and being brave, really. So I guess it's so connected to the way we work together. And I was saying before, the trust and this ambition that we share together, creating something that is moving. Really, I think that's the axe that unlocks all the things that we do together. Even if it's like a more brand-focused brief or is a more product-focused brief, everyone shares this ambition of creating the best work we can.
Okay, how does this brief look like? So you mentioned it before, and now I have to ask, how does this process look like?
Well,
because I mean, I just heard one of your predecessor, Ben Curtis, who's now on Rexona. He was on the Vox Pop of the Effies, and he said that I wish more marketing factories paid attention to how they brief. I mean, it's a fact. I think most marketers think they write great briefs, and most agencies think they're shit. So, how does this look like between you guys?
Well, I think like the brief we receive from the client side always come with the right information, which is already a great point. So it gives us the right information to understand the scenario. I guess we also collaborate a lot together, especially the strategy team with the marketing team. So it's not like as straightforward. That would be like, oh, the client created the brief, they shared on a meeting, the accounting got the brief, and now the strategy team restarts. You know, it's not as straightforward. We have a lot of meetings to see if the briefing is going to the right direction, or if we think that the opportunity is well put there. I remember one brief that we had for superiority that landed on what was the Stick to the Original campaign that awarded us a gold 2 years ago on the Effie.
Okay.
On the beginning was, I don't know if you remember, it was a brief on sustainability.
Yes.
So the brief was like, okay, we have this brief on sustainability, we are doing a lot of things around it, and we together as a strategy team and the client, and we're provoking the guys a lot to say, what is the real challenge here? Like what is something that we wanted to achieve with this brief? Because at the time was seeing that sustainability was the vehicle for achieving something, not the actual message. So we were trying to understand, and then we understood that the actual challenge was competition, growing up, and private labels, and then obviously sustainability and all of these things that we do became a differentiation for a brand, shows the craft and everything else. But then we were like, maybe the brief is different. Like we understand the challenge makes sense, but maybe the direction we have could be different. So that was something that we provoked during pre-brief. It was not even the final brief. We were just discussing together to see if the challenge that we have in the brief, the way we're constructing would make sense. And then at the end, we found a super high insight around private labels and copycats that landed into a super funny campaign. It was the first time Magnum did a humorous comedy campaign, and it was a huge success. So I guess the process goes like that, you know, it's not as straightforward as, you know, marketing 101. It's more collaborative. And sometimes we challenge each other in a way that I don't think this brief is going to the right direction. There's a lot of debrief sessions before we go into an actual strategic presentation with routes and creative ideas. So we do a lot of this back and forth, and I guess is how we can build the best work, because we are always, you know, making the work best from the brief to the end result.
Where do you usually push Tobias more? Like, and which areas of which stages?
Well, I guess we always is pushing each other. I guess it goes into, you know, from the beginning, when the beginning of the work, we push each other to find the best way into the challenge we have and really nail the problem, the challenge, and what is the opportunity we have for this campaign or for this brief specifically.
What is the insight, the consumer insight?
Or what is the opportunity? Like, what is something that is happening around this specific challenge? For example, with Nothing Cracks Like Magnum, the challenge was outside of the category. It was coming from suppliers telling that chocolate is getting a lot expensive because of cocoa prices. We're seeing a response in products getting more and more expensive. So we discussed like what we do. Like we need to support our pricing. We need to support our premium index. At the same time that our product will become more expensive. Like there's no way we cannot make it less expensive or the same price because the raw material is getting 400% more expensive. So we need to do something. So we had the challenge, we are discussing together, we're pushing each other to see what is the best way in, what should we do, and then there's the moment where we're presenting the strategy and the strategic routes for the brief, where we also push each other to see maybe there's something bigger than this that we're presenting right now. Or maybe this is taking us to a place where, I don't know, it's like, oh, Magnum, or it's something that we don't want to build anymore. Like, we always challenging each other to see if we're everyone's comfortable, but is also excited with the directions we have. And then goes into the creative process where they need to translate up this beautiful strategic work and, nail the challenge. And then, again, start pushing each other to see, okay, we want a more craft here. I think this campaign deserves something more aspirational or less. What we always say that there is a challenge with being a global brand is that we don't have a lot of voiceover, people telling stories or narratives. Our story is beautifully told most of the times without saying a single word, which is also a challenge for you to translate that. So again, goes into the pushing that maybe we need more explanation here. Maybe it's too conceptual. People are not going to understand that. There's the balance. There's where it comes the ambition, but also having the right vision and the right objective and understanding that the work is going to serve a purpose for the brand and for ourselves.
Talk to me a little bit about the crack. And I mean, you mentioned, Bruno, cocoa prices were up 400%. Basically, you knew you would have to increase prices and you, at the same time, the way you've been building the brand is really not, from what I gather, not commercially driven. I mean, everything needs to achieve commercial results, but it's you're discounting and promo pricing is definitely not the way that you've been leading with building the brand. So how did you unlock this insight with the crack?
So it's actually like super interesting because when you look at Nothing Cracks Like Magnum, you start with a business problem, right? A business context, which is about the increase of cocoa prices, which inevitably, is a challenge that the whole sector need to deal with it. And there's a lot of ways on how to respond on that. But I think what is always at the front and center of Magnum is making sure that we actually understand our consumer and what drives value for our consumers. And when we started about the insight generation together as part of the strategic process, it was about social listening that we took for more than, I think, 5 years.
Yeah, it was a really long social listening.
To really understand what are consumers actually saying about our product and what do they consider as a sign of superiority, as a sign of value.
Whoops.
Love that.
Nothing falls like an iPad.
Nothing falls like an iPad, exactly. And I think that part where you say like, when we did that, it was so eye-opening to us because we were explicit about our crack because it has been part of our distinctive brand asset. But to actually translate into that to value for consumers is something where our eyes opened up actually, together as a strategic team on the agency side as well as on the client side of like, this is so powerful. And if we use that as an insight to translate it into going into the creative process, what can it do for us, And then in the end, like it truly turned into a sonic DBA, so a sonic distinctive brand asset, while it was always already a visual distinctive brand asset. So now it also became all about the sound. Yeah. And that sound resonated so well that actually we've created a campaign that had a community insight. And that's something that from a Magnum perspective, connecting and being obsessed with our consumers is so important. And you can always ask consumers, what do you like or what do you think about this? But consumers not always know that. But if they're already talking about this for 5 years on socials,
you're just tapping
everywhere,
in.
it's like everybody was talking about that magical moment. It's not a moment, of course it's part of our product, but it's not a moment that we've always staged that much, and neither do we want to. But it became front and center because consumers loved it so much.
I mean, I can tell from experience, like it's the thought of the crack that lifts me up, like gets me wanting to buy it. Like this, I'm a tub fan, so just I'll give you another idea. It's this squeeze with a crack. It's this sensorial thing that you would never imagine being able to do with a product.
I guess what we're saying, like I guess the strategy behind is a lot more complex than it seems when you go into the thinking, because obviously the crack is part of the experience, and we always knew that the crack is one thing that we need to be consistent across all of the formats we have. So the experience of having the cracking chocolate needed to be present in every format. That's why, the tub has the crack from the outside. So the crack has always been part of the product experience. But as Toby was saying, it was just a sign of the experience itself, the same way as the stick is how you hold it, or the creamy textures. All of these things are also characteristics of the product. I guess the shift was when we saw consumers saying that the crack was louder, or it wasn't as, or they try what we saw, that it was the insight from the first campaign, then the stick to the original, was that, Magnum-like ice creams, they don't crack as loud or as pleasurable as Magnum ones. Or we also saw some people, talking about the quality of the chocolate, and they can tell the chocolate is high quality because of the sound of the crack. So now we're starting to say that, okay, the crack is actually a lot bigger than it seems. It's not just a characteristic of the product. It's actually saying something. And if you think really, really rational about the crack and how the crack exists, it comes from the thickness of the chocolate. It's a characteristic of the product that we could say that we have thicker chocolate, that's why it cracks. But
then it would kill the magic.
You kill the magic.
I mean, I find it so brilliant that it's not just the fact that, first of all, you have this distinctive brand asset that it's a sound, but you also, maybe by coincidence, it's just matching the whole trend for ASMR videos and sound, like all the TikTok videos with the sound, and it's just such a great moment for a brand to be tapping into. And I read somewhere that you recorded how different ice creams crack.
Yeah,
like so that the sound is actually original. This is.
Yeah, we went out.
This is next level.
Yeah, and I guess also when we unlock something that is so creative, has such a big creative potential, it also inspires our media agents to see how can this crack really evolve from communication, really stand out. And then you start bringing up some new media formats, synchronization with radio. So that's where like the insight, it goes way beyond the actual execution. It inspired the entire ecosystem of the campaign.
Yeah, because it's really actually some next level sound engineering in a way, right? Because it's already there, it's part of the product. It's, by the way, a really strong element that we don't localize anywhere, because the crack is a common denominator wherever you are in the world. Yeah. And I think that also shows, again, that you can build this consistency. And like Bruno is saying, I think when it comes to even like media placement, the creative is brilliant, but where you place it and how you show it in front of consumers is as important, right? Because we've prioritized sound on media when we put it in front of consumers. And that shows, like we did in cinema, very impactful. You see the crack and it goes on the screen, and it's a truly multi-sensorial experience, right? And I already feel it in my mouth, like, and people like, and then again, like you do it in radio, right? Where the focus is all on sound, and like you said, with regards to certain digital out-of-home new media placements where you pass by and you hear your media is actually synchronized with the media buying. So you hear a crack and you look around you and it's like, was that a crack? Like there's this type of media placement that's also so important. So from the start to the execution, sound engineering has been so important.
And maybe, we were having a discussion before about AI, and it feels like, okay, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but it's like that you want to be authentic to the audience, that this is how each of these ice creams actually cracks, and we could have cracked it with AI, but we're gonna invest heavy in, I think you recorded with the best technology, the real crack of the chocolate, so that when you hear it, it's as close to what you feel at home on yourself. And
I guess also, I feel like on this campaign specifically, because the crack evolved from being a sound that we use as an effect on the campaign, you know?
It used to sound the same everywhere.
But it was like it wasn't a sound effect, a part of the post-production of the campaign, you know? It had the music and you have all of the different visual effects and the sound effects. It was a sound effect from the campaign. And then it evolved to become a message. I feel like that's the shift.
That's the shift.
And once it becomes a message, your ecosystem needs to exist around this message. So that's why you're saying like the assets, and it was sound first. So the media needed to be sound first. We developed a lot of, you know, work, and we spent a lot of time around the sound because the sound was the message. The same way you would spend a lot of time crafting what would be the, you know, the copywriting or the script. We spent a lot of time around the crack because the crack was the main message of the campaign. If you have like a message hierarchy, it was like crack. Crack is the first message people need to understand. That's the shift, that the crack became something where it means something else rather than just the sound. It means the quality, the craftsmanship, the thick chocolate, all of these things.
I think also, especially when you think about in times where cocoa prices are increasing and, you know, there are all kind of movements in the market when it comes to the premiumness of the brand and justifying the word paying more for, you know, authenticity is really important, right? And showing up in an authentic way towards your consumer is of absolute essence, you know? So faking that sound wouldn't serve that purpose, right? Because you're not authentic towards consumers. So it's, in the end, you really need to showcase to consumers why it's worth paying more for, why it's premium, why it's high quality. And I think that sound allowed us to do it in an authentic way. And if you would do that with AI, it wouldn't bring the same message.
I also think this sound here, it plays a role of, as we were saying, like it's saying a lot of things without actually saying. And I guess we had other options to execute the campaign. If you think from the business challenge, we could just create something like Magnum has the best chocolate, 90% cocoa. You know, we could explain to consumers, say that. But is this as exciting or as, you know, interesting and inspiring as, you know, not saying anything but getting everything?
But I mean, I read the case when I was a judge at the EFIS, and I read the case, and it's crazy how consumers actually, I think you tested it, and they didn't care if the chocolate is I don't know, what type of quality of chocolate, or the cream of Madagascar, or vanilla, or something.
No, they don't.
They don't.
They don't care. They don't care.
And this is game changing in the way that most brands advertise.
Yes.
And think of quality in terms of ingredients, and you anchored on something very distinctive to the brand, which connotated quality like this. Yeah.
And I think it's also like, I mean, consumers care about the overall product experience, right? But needing to explain all of these individual elements that result into this overall product experience makes it really complex. So when you say about Madagascar and vanilla, all of these things, they matter to consumers as a part of the overall product experience. But as individual, they don't really necessarily create talkability, right? Because, okay,
everyone
vanilla from Madagascar and
but there are also so many other products that have Madagascar.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, no, of course. So, in the end, we always talk about thick cracking chocolate. It's the combination of thick cracking chocolate and velvety ice cream, right? So that's also like, yes, we are a chocolate brand in ice cream, but we do care as much about our ice cream as we care about our chocolate, you know? So I think that combination is really important. And this campaign, you know, resonated and created this sonic DBA of entering through chocolate as a signification of the overall ice cream, which I think is really nice.
I met yesterday here at the office one of your experience design leads, and he was talking to me, like, as I was asking him as well about like this transition from Unilever to Magnum, and he said, like, Dafni, I've been to many companies, but Magnum walks the talk when they talk about science, when they talk about product innovation, etc. And he was telling me about how you work with neuroscientists to really distill where pleasure comes from. So I would love it if you can like walk us through a little bit. Like he brought into the notion of delayed gratification and how we should be designing a journey that gets us to this delayed gratification. And when he said it, I was instantly, what do you mean delayed gratification? It's it's an impulse buy, maybe it's instant gratification. So, well, pleasure is much bigger when you delay it. Yeah. So how walk me through how you think of that journey.
No, I think that's a really good topic to start about, because actually if you think about Magnum as a brand in terms of our product, it's all about the sensorial journey in a way, right? And you have something that, like, Magnum is about indulgence and about pleasure, right? Indulgence is what the product delivers, but pleasure is also what it results into. And when you think about the journey on how you want people to buy your ice cream, like, yes, it's an impulse category. So when you see something, you crave it, you want to buy it. But when it comes to driving pleasure, we have something called the drooling factor, or the Drool Factor. And that basically makes your drool when you see certain assets. So in the whole journey, from the packaging that we designed that you see here on the table, to when you, for example, look in terms of the media and communication that you serve to consumers, you want it to look good, taste good, and almost from the visual point of view, already imagine consumers to know what a product tastes like. And that drool factor and sort of delayed pleasure is, you see it on an asset and then you want to go to store, you want to go to store to buy the ice cream. And then you grab the packaging, and you look at it and it's like, oh my God, like, look at these pistachios, like, look at the cracking chocolate. You know almost what to expect, and then you buy it. And because you've been craving it throughout the whole journey.
And thinking of how it's going to feel when I finally...
So once you then finally have that sort of instant gratification, the amount of pleasure that you get from an ice cream is really, really high. And sometimes even higher than some of the other snacking categories, So that pleasure is really showcasing something that is unique. And that's something that, as a brand team, together with the agency, sensorial journey is something really important. And pleasure is what people experience throughout that sensorial journey. And that's much more than just the ice cream on how it tastes, but also the savior after, or the anticipation before. And that makes it really interesting.
And I guess going also back to your point where you're saying, the difference between Unilever and Magnum, I feel like the amount of information we have around it, the whole sensory experience, but the actual product, or how consumers are feeling, the brand tracking, all of the level of information we have, that's a clear heritage from Unilever. The CMI teams are huge. And for me, first time I saw
CMIT, for our audience, what is CMIT?
CMIT is like the consumer marketing insights team.
Okay.
So they are responsible for, studying consumers, but from any level of perspective, from pre-testing a campaign to testing the level of decibels from the product compared to the other version before.
Wow.
And then you see like the cracking decibels are louder, this one, and it triggers a higher response for pleasure, which is so intense. But it's so interesting for you to have access to this level of information, because at the end of the day, as a strategist, information is the ground base for every work. So the more information you have, the more richer insights you can take out of it, or you can have a fresher perspective. So I guess we are always fed up with a lot of these informations, which is awesome. I feel like that's one of the privileges of being Unilever.
Tobias was walking me through the office, and you have this command room with screens where you get live data and consumer data from all around the world. I mean, this signified in my brain how important this thing is.
Yeah, we're obsessed with data as well, right? We need to be, because we need to know where our product is sold, where do we have opportunities to sell, where do we have opportunities to create new occasions. So data is a fundamental element for any marketer or strategist in order to be able to build insights from.
A brand of this size grows only when the category grows. So it's not just I'm just thinking of ice cream as a childhood treat that then Magnum mastered to make into an adult indulgence thing. How are you thinking of the what's the long-term trajectory of that? Like how are you creating more occasions?
Yeah. So I think that's a good question, and as we're part of a bigger snacking category, we always talk about snacking occasions, right? So you have a snacking occasion like hunger fill, or a snacking occasion.
Yeah, so I would never think of snacking with ice cream, but you're actually right.
Yeah. So it's our hunger fill, there's indulgence, there is refreshment, you know. So there are different roles a brand can play, and then also where it's consumed, right? Something can be consumed in home, something can be consumed on the couch specifically, or as a dessert, or on the go, you know, on a festival, or also places where culture is being created, right? And I think showing up as a Magnum ice cream company and Magnum as a brand in places where culture is being created and occasions shines a light on how we can address that consumer need as well. So ultimately, when you think about the future, you know, of course, occasions will be an absolute essential part of our strategy moving forward. And that's why we also design different products, right? We have the bonbons here, for example, which are all about this snacking occasion, right? This cheeky chocolate moment where you're munching on something, you know, and the bonbon, yeah, like even you know, 4 o'clock is a snacking moment that's quite important. Like, why not have a bonbon, you know? And even for a sharing occasion, sharing it with your friends, bringing it to a birthday party, this is perfect.
And so much better because it doesn't go bad. You just close it, put it back.
Yeah, true.
Exactly. So there are ways on how we are actually designing our products for those different occasions, and that's what we will be continuing to doing, because our role as a Magnum company and ice cream company is to grow the category, like you said, and create more smiles on people's faces. So.
But I guess also going back when we also discussed a lot of, you know, the brand roots and where this brand comes from, and it was the first brand that created ice cream, chocolate covered ice cream on a stick for autos. It was the innovator, the pioneer of that in 1989. And I feel like here right now when we talk about these informations of, you know, knowing that consumers are having different occasions where ice cream could play a role in it, and then you develop a new format or you develop a new flavor. The story we're going to tell is more about the pleasure and the feeling, the sensation. That's what consumers are, you know, looking for. But from a developing perspective and how this brand translates what consumers are needing, what the marketing is needing, and the information we have that we gather from all of these various sources of research and transform into something that never existed before, or we are crafting maybe a new subcategory with this, you know?
But I mean, I see the packaging here. I've never seen this ice cream before, and it has so many layers and textures, and even is this 3D, like the little sticks here, or?
Yeah, so it is a monogram.
I'm trying to avoid all the buzzwords like AI and Gen Z, but I feel like it's also tapping into a little bit all of the experimentation and textures and stuff that this new generation of consumer wants.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at these products, they are the epiphany of indulgence, right? So it has something to do with the layering, but also
make us drool. Talk to us about it. What is it? What's there? What's in there?
So basically, it starts all with, as we call it, the billet. So that's the ice cream itself, and it are actually two ice creams. So it's two different ice creams. One is the velvety pistachio ice cream, actually, that people know from us. The other one is the center of the ice cream is actually a velvety pistachio gelato, so higher in concentration of pistachio, more dense, and truly drives this crafted gelato experience. And I think that's something, you know, when you think about ingredients first, pistachio, of course, the Dubais of this world, but pistachio is an heritage flavor. It has been around for ages. What we wanted to do is like, if you want the best pistachio ice cream out there, let's go all out, bring different textures, and make sure that we bring the best pistachio ice cream. So if you think about the ice cream, afterwards it's dipped in this new signature pistachio shell, which again is cracking, because if it doesn't crack, it's not Magnum.
Exactly.
And then it's finished off with our signature dip of Magnum chocolate. And I think if you look at that, like,
can you bring us some?
Well, absolutely.
I can't wait to try it as well.
Shall I bring now? Yes, let me go. Yeah, I brought some of other products too. So we hear of the La Pêche one, which is also the new peach coated product, which is really nice.
What's with the French?
Yeah, it's basically all inspired by craftsmanship and French pâtissiers. Okay. So I think that's also where the French naming comes from. We have the pistachio. I will take a bonbon on myself. I love the snacking element of it, but here you have the pistachio one or peach.
I will have the pistachio one.
Yeah, me too.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, now let's hope that my shirt is saved. We'll see. Okay, we can do some proper ASMR videos. Let's do the crack.
I was kind of anxious. You wouldn't crack, but he did.
It has a layer under the chocolate.
Yes. It's really, really, really nice.
I'm sorry you guys are not eating.
Wow, this one is really good.
I will actually have this one too.
Let's test if you can speak.
While eating.
What's your first reaction?
It feels like a Magnum. It has the same thickness. Personally, I've never had Magnum pistachio before, so it just the fact that it has pistachio makes me feel like it's something luxury. I know how expensive pistachio is, though. In one of there is an island close to Athens that I go very often, and it's the home of pistachio, and I know how expensive this product is. So just eating a whole ice cream that I could buy from the kiosk that has it has a real pistachio flavor and like the real pieces. So I think it works for. I mean, it just proves the premiumness. I don't know. That's what.
Yeah, I feel like every time I eat a Magnum, you taste the craftsmanship. It's clearly made differently from, other ice creams that you try. Even if, let's be honest, everyone here in the room already tried a Magnum knockoff at least once in their life, I guess. And you can definitely see the difference. Because that's where it's not the brand. The brand, yes, but it's not the brand. It goes to the product level, the details, the craftsmanship, the way it's made, the ingredients, the rich feeling. We all say like, oh, it's too rich, it's too Magnum.
And one of the things I loved about hearing about is that you take your agency partners with you as soon as something like new is coming in, even if it's innovation. How does this production process look like, this innovation process? Like when what you just described, how is it made?
Yeah.
And how maybe also the piloting phase?
Yeah, so we have in-house chefs that are really culinary educated and understand the world of pâtisserie and craft. And when you come to these type of products,
the center is crazy.
Yeah,
I just reached it. It's very good. Yeah.
It's really, really indulgent. And I think when it comes to these chefs, and that's why I like our campaign of this year also so much, because we're producing in our ice cream factories, right? There's automated factories, of course, but the process that goes before it actually enters the factory is something really beautiful. It's truly crafted, hand-dipped products and combinations and flavor matching and pairing. That's truly a curated experience by our chefs. So it's not something we go about of like a mass market produced, we truly look at flavor pairing at the highest level. We even sometimes before we create these ice creams, we go and look at plated desserts, like how do these flavors combine before we actually make them into a stick or a bonbon or any other format that we have in our portfolio. So the craft and the attention to detail of our chefs is something that is truly magnificent and truly something that turns into products like this, because like Bruno said, like the amount of time and effort we put into it, like we have tastings where we fly from a marketing point of view to our R&D center in the UK, where we sit together with chefs, we try everything, we give feedback, we talk about products, we do safaris in different companies and different countries actually, where we go to Shanghai, we go to Antwerp, we go to Tokyo. We truly get global flavor inspiration, also in areas where the trend starts, and also just to understand new combinations, if you think about, take pistachio as an example. This product has the pistachio coating, which is very, very innovative. But on top of that, it has the salted and caramelized pistachio pieces.
I felt the salt. I was about to ask.
Yeah, so you can work with normal just pistachio crunchies, basically, but making them salted and caramelized brings an extra dimension. So we've tasted this product before in all of the pilots with normal pistachio pieces. We didn't feel it was too elevated yet. So we wanted to go a step further and push our teams, and how you constructively design and orchestrate an indulgence like a Magnum ice cream. So, you know, these products like have been for a longer time of period in the making. You know, we've looked at these different coatings and cracking and etc. And the crack is really, really important for us. So yeah, there's truly a piece of craftsmanship that goes into it when you think about developing them.
And I guess when us as an Asians got involved from the beginning, I guess it changed completely the way of working, because usually what happened is that the brand side develop a new product, a flavor, they brief the Asians like, hey guys, this is the innovation for 2028, this is the new flavor launching. And then we need to understand how we position it and the concept. But here what we do is that before going to the profile, the tasting profiles or the different, you know, the different executions the chef will take as the first approach, we together work in the concepts of this product. What is it about? Is it about purity? So this becomes a brief to the chef. Okay, I need to create the Magnum experience that translates purity. Or the concept is, in this case, craftsmanship. What is the craftsmanship? How the product is translating craftsmanship? Is it from the ingredients? Yeah, but the ingredients alone is not enough. So it has to have a level of technique and, you know, some spice in it to really bring the craftsmanship to life. So I guess it's this relationship that us, from a strategic point of view, we are already ensured that the story that we're going to build later in communication, it's already intrinsic to the product, because the product was designed based on this bigger concept that we define.
I would never imagine the brand direction inspiring innovation. Like, you always think of, oh, there's this trend, or this is not working as well, we need more of that flavor, but that's
also how you create truly market-making products, right? By not necessarily following trends, but creating them as well. And I think these products, for example, like, they are visually so captivating, but it's a result of the signature experience that we've created, you know? So I think the beauty of this process as well is, like you said, like, it's not that the chefs start creating and then we build a campaign around it. No, we also brief the chefs to come up with a territory and a product that matches that territory. And even if you think about the theme of this year was, we wanted to continue making the crack part of culture. And the campaign of this year, which is House of Magnum, which actually goes live as we speak everywhere, which is very, very exciting. It's all about craftsmanship. And these products embody craftsmanship by its finest, because it's a signature ingredient-led experience that has craft written all over it. So it's really, really beautiful, making the crack still front and center. But what does that crack mean? That crack means superiority. That crack means craftsmanship. And I think building that into the new world of House of Magnum, where we've taken the metaphor.
What's House of Magnum?
House of Magnum, and I think Bruno, like, feel free to add, because we co-created it together. But House of Magnum is actually a campaign that heroes craftsmanship. Yes. And you see some of the portraits here of the talent that have been featured in our advertising.
I hope we look as good as them when we're eating it.
As cool as them.
The thing is, there's not a way to look good or bad, because everybody is their authentic self. And no, the reason why I'm saying is, like, it sounds corny, yeah. But honestly, right? Like, I think if you look at all these bite shots, they're all characterized in a different way. Like, there's not a right way to do a bite shot. Like, the bite shot is raw. It shows the pleasure of that specific individual, you know? And this campaign is all about the metaphor of haute couture. So it's not only how something looks, it's also how it's made. So that's where the craftsmanship comes in. And Bruno, feel free to elaborate further, but it's... really,
yeah, no, I guess when we started working this brief, and obviously we had the clear challenge on how can we make, support our premium pricing point, support our perception of being a better quality product. And then obviously Magnum has been playing around fashion for years now. We did Iris Van Harpen collaborations. We already collaborated with Moschino, with Bella Hadid, with Alexander Wang. We've been part of the fashion universe for a while now. So I guess it also gave us the right to play on it. And then everything kind of like locked together in a way that we have a product that is beautifully designed and is obviously a Magnum experience, but it takes the Magnum craftsmanship to another level. What other space in the world that you have a base level of craftsmanship that is already so high, and they still came up with a solution that it goes even beyond? And then we found fashion. Fashion has, you know, the fashion weeks, all of these things that define what fashion is and how people dress and behave. And then you have haute couture, which is another thing. It's handmade. It's selected to the specific houses or maisons. So it's not everyone that can make couture. And it's not everyone that can make this level of craftsmanship that we're doing as a Magnum brand.
Love it.
So then we created this parallel between the craft that goes into, you know, behind a maison in creating a fashion show and also our products. So you see that the different areas of the campaign or the universe that we created, they show how each of our formats is a translation of craftsmanship from the stick to the pint, and you see the reflection that on the clothing the models are using. So it created this beautiful universe around craftsmanship and fashion together. And you see all of these details when you go into, okay, we created this universe. The R&D team was also working on how they create the most crafted product ever. And then the visual of the product at the end still connects with the universe of fashion. And it connects with the ballet flat from Chanel, color, contrast. So you see all of these things merge together from the beginning, creating this specific universe.
It's just launched, I haven't seen it, so but it's like the drooling effect. You're making me very curious. What are the expressions of this? What are going to be the expressions of this platform? It's like it's also a TVC and everything.
Yeah. So we have a full campaign that is launching, and we also have, you know, I guess for the first time always as a brand, and I guess one of the changes we probably did over time with this new moment of the brand is that we always supported our biggest innovations, which are this one for this year. And the rest of portfolio was supported by the rest of channels. I guess now we created a universe that is so rich and it's so well connected to, first, obviously, the innovation and translated very well the challenge we have for this year, but also from a brand level, connects with everything we do. So we, for the first time, created a campaign that is not only cultural-led, but is also what we call a format-led. We have different formats that are part of the same universe that we can support in communication throughout the year in different moments based on different market needs. So I guess it's how we, as a brand, as a global brand, ensure that different markets with different challenge, they can still use the global campaign rather than start creating local assets or local activations that, you know, it can work really well with your market, but also dilutes the brand consistency and the global vision from the campaign. So I guess this campaign will be not only supported from a mass media perspective, but also a modular perspective, as some markets will activate more one format or another one specific part of the campaign or the whole universe we created. And I guess kind of like that's the beauty behind this campaign as well.
There was also a question from the audience of how you see the whole classic debate between global and local. So I hear the consistency part. I know Magnum has been obsessed with consistency. Can you explain what are the things you absolutely keep on a global level or a global creative level, and where you give markets freedom?
Yeah, well, I think I said in an earlier conversation that I don't believe there's such a thing as a global team, simply because of the fact that in the end, culture is created locally and we sort of absorb that. And what we do with that is make sure that, yes, it drives consistency. But what we as a global team often do is making sure that there is an agenda for long-term innovation, that we bring truly new technological R&D innovation. And that's something that locally, you know, you're so focused on activating the brand in the right way, there wouldn't be enough space for that. So that's something that we truly do as a global brand. And in terms of the freedom that we give them, I think every person that is part of the global brand community is part of a truly global community. So we have such a thing as called the GBC, which is a global brand community call, which we have every month. And all of the local markets are dialing in there. And from a global point of view, we share a vision, we share the new campaign.
How long is this call? Sorry for that. I'm just thinking all of these markets joining and sharing. Okay.
It's 2 hours. And it's a fixed slot for every month. So everybody knows when they can have it. And it's also truly the idea of that call is to make sure that we share knowledge and expertise with each other, because a really cool activation in Brazil can travel to Latvia or wherever in the world, right? So
do the agencies also join these calls from the different markets?
Sometimes they do, absolutely. Yeah, because I think it gives great learnings and insights for the agency as well. And I think in terms of globally, we have take House of Magnum as an example. It's a creative universe, a creative ecosystem that we've created. And it lands on a different elements, like cultural activation, above the line communication, so TV commercials and everything. And in order to create that, we need local input. And once it lands in the market, it almost feels like it's their own. Mm-hmm. So instead of telling them what to do or talking about freedom, it's not about that. It's about the interaction and giving also co-creation with the markets, because that's where the true strength comes in. And obviously we have a few markets that are very dominant as part of our contribution. And those are markets that are also very early involved. So it's not something where there's a specific authority or something like that. No, it's truly co-creating, because only there you're able to move the needle. So I think there's a part of education that we are all educating each other on how a certain market operates, versus a part where we have a universe that feels that you can own it. I think that's a part. And then the third part is also having a bit more of a longer term ambition and vision for the brand on where do we want to go to invest heavily in that market making technology that grows the category, goes after more snacking occasions. So it really sits in the interaction of these type of elements.
Yeah. And I guess from a global perspective as well, because I think it's very easy for you to, when you're a global team, to feel like you're bringing some top down to the markets, like this is the global campaign, do it. Just do it, And I guess having working from the local perspective is not good if you're working on an agent that is, running the account locally, and then comes the global agents or the global client say, hey, this is the campaign, you need to do it, just do it. And we're like, yeah, but maybe this campaign doesn't make a lot of sense, or we need to adapt it a little bit. And I guess the difference with us is that we take a lot of inputs from the local markets.
Can you share an example of campaigns that started from a local truth and maybe became global? Or
for example, nothing cracks like Magnum. With Stick to the Original was something that was very local, and then we become a global platform. We created a story around craftsmanship and the superiority of a product that was inspired by a local reality.
Which market?
It was especially the UK, where private labels are super strong. And then the behavior we saw in consumers were calling these other products Magnum-like, Magnum-type, or Magnum-kind ice creams. So this behavior was very local. Obviously, it is a lot stronger in markets where you have private labels as, a lot more aggressive than other markets. Like in Brazil, private labels are not as big, or in the US. Right here, like in Europe in general, they're very aggressive. So obviously some of these insights work. They connect faster or better with having this context, but it works everywhere because you understand where it comes from. And the campaign at the end of the day is also very entertaining, But I guess also what we do is that when we are producing something that is global and taking a lot of consideration of what is the local input and how the local, how the cultural locally behave, I guess also we input that a lot into the production. So for example, as we were saying, like we have a new campaign where we went to shoot in Shanghai for a reason. It's not just because we want it, because the style of the photography, the way we're gonna, spread this campaign takes a lot of inspiration. The models, the aesthetic, all of that influence, and it comes from the way these Asian markets are creating fashion right now. So there is a reason why we went there to create that. There is a reason why we are using, or we are taking inspiration from the local cultures, but transforming it or using it in a global way. And I guess it's like different from, just thinking something that is global, sometimes generic, and just do it. Just execute by media, by the 15 seconds and put on air.
Please talk to me a little bit about, you just said we're shooting in Shanghai with this photographer. I saw it before, it looked like the Vogue shoot. And as a brand, you've done things that, like really creating art, like what you did with like in Italy with a Pope's painter that you gave a happy ending to a love story that was never.
Dante and Beatrice Kiss.
Yes, or with the black and white films you mentioned, or you can mention more of the stories that really signal. I'm curious to understand where this is coming from and how it connects, like the root of it with Magnum. Like you're really betting on art and artistic expression as a mean to achieve commercial impact, which is not a route many times. You have it even in a company, the classic creatives versus commercial people debate, and it's very hard that these things are a direct line. Like where is this coming from?
Well, I think it comes from, first, obviously, a brand that understood pleasure has many ways of, manifesting itself, especially because obviously as a brand, we are creating pleasure in a form of ice cream, but pleasure itself and the way we consume pleasure, it has many forms. And then on the beginning, we're like, okay, what are areas, or what we called before passion points, where consumers experience pleasure in a way. So we have like fashion is a pleasure expression, art is a pleasure expression, music. So a lot of these universes, obviously right now in 2026 feel very generic to say music is a passion point. But 10, 15 years ago was like, okay, we have these defined spaces where pleasure has a role and people consume it in a way that is different. As a brand that stands up for pleasure, how we can show up in those places in a way that is very authentic. So at the end of the day, obviously, was creating connection with consumers through these moments of connection, but specifically bringing to life the superiority and the craftsmanship. So if you think on the red thread behind all these things that we did, creating books, commissioning the Pope painter, or making a remix with Kylie Minogue and Peggy Gou. All of these things comes with the craftsmanship, the way you design it to be different, to be something else. Because that's what our product is also doing. We are redefining ice cream to be something else, to be something bigger or more delicious than you expected.
Yeah, it's truly a lifestyle, and that's the same what pleasure is. Pleasure is a lifestyle, right? It manifests itself in different ways. And I think being able to take a brand that's so rooted in strong credentials allows you to actually flex some of those and go into territories where people maybe don't expect you. I think pleasure, even like we were one of the brands that brought the experience elements first to the world with the Magnum Pleasure stores, that were launched by the people, the giants, I would say, on what shoulders we're standing on now,
I love the idea that you said that because you're on the shoulders of giants and because of everything they've already bring, it's giving you a spring to take risks versus many other global brands of equal size, let's say, that are not taking the risk because of what they fear they will lose. So that's that.
But it also builds a certain level of evidence, right? So what our predecessors have done, shown that we can move the needle and that we can be different in the ice cream category and that we can manifest pleasure in different ways. And that shows that the possibilities are endless if you look at it like that. Instead of a constrained way of thinking where pleasure needs to be X, Y, Z. No, it's in the end, it's all about being true to yourself and overcoming any fear of judgment and truly living that pleasure that you deserve. Yeah. And now more important than ever.
And I guess over time, what happened? And I guess over time, what we can see is that all of those things that 15 years ago were passion points, there was a strategic the points of connection with consumers, now it becomes the DNA of the brand. So art right now is not a space where we go in and do something. Art is embedded in our brand. When we go into creating a campaign for winter that is black and white, that's also taking inspiration, using our artistic DNA in a way, or in fact, or fashion, like you don't need to be a designer to be part of the fashion world, and we are not a designer, but we are part of the fashion world. So that's why I was saying we have the right to play to some of these things.
Right to win.
It's true, and it's not a passion point anymore. It was a passion point in the beginning, where we're doing some collaborations with models to be part of this world. but right now we are part of this world, you know, and it's part of our brand as well. Fashion is so important that even if we're doing a campaign that has nothing to do with fashion, fashion still plays a very strong role in the way we create it, because the fashion, the art, the art direction, the music, all of these things build this superiority, this idea of, you know, being a premium brand. You know, you see it, you feel it, like it's a brand that is, you know, as the same level of quality as the product they deliver.
And I think, to be honest, fashion also, like, it actually came to us in the most authentic way ever, right? Because Kate Moss, during the Vivienne Westwood fashion show in 1994, walked the catwalk with a Magnum. And we did not put that Magnum in there. Like, you know, it was Vivienne Westwood and the creative directors at the time that made Kate Moss walk the runway with the Magnum. So it's sort of like, it's historical. We can leverage that. And even we connect those dots nowadays. I mean, Charlie XCX, which was our ambassador last season, she opened the Cannes Film Festival for Magnum, walking La Crozette in a Vivienne Westwood archive piece with a Magnum. Like, the connections there are made, and it's also the passion of the people and the knowledge and the drive with our handpicked agencies to make those things work. It's like archive is a trend. People talk about archive in TikTok. Oh, that's an archive Vivienne Westwood piece. Like, it's something we put there, but it got picked up because it feels authentic. It got featured in Vogue as the accessory of the summer. I mean, how do you make Magnum the fashion accessory? It's because being authentic, taking risks, don't be afraid, don't wait until it's perfect, go try it out. Yeah. And we will see what it does. But that bravery, again, to come up on that, is so important.
And I guess going also what Toby was saying, that I feel like a brand, the level of Magnum, we are always playing on the both side of the coins, that we are building culture and we are responding to culture as well. I feel like there's the role in both of them, because, you know, when we go into stick to the original, we are responding to a culture that were already there. People are already talking about the private labels as a Magnum. They were using our name to talk about a different product. So we just reacted to this behavior and capitalized in pro of our brand, and it worked. So we're reacting to a culture. But when we're going to Find Your Summer, or when we're going to this brief but viral collaboration with Charlie XX, we are creating culture. We are there creating culture from the first, when we are with Vivienne Westwood in 1994. Now we are creating culture again. We're creating a momentum. Obviously, Charlie XX was hyped, but the story around Magnum, fashion, Vivienne Westwood, and Charlie XX was something we created. It was creating a conversation in culture. So I guess as a brand, and because we have this flex of, you know, going into these different spaces and having the right to play with these different universes, I guess we as a brand can also flex in, we can jump into this trend and this culture and use that in our favor, but we can also go and create something from scratch, like create this culture around it, because we have also the right to play in here.
There is a kind of patience. I mean, if I look at the reels I saw from, I mean, last year, from Find Your Summer, like this black and white, like this patience that even the concept had the patience that you wait for the sun to arrive and then we let you know where the sun is so you can find your summer. And all of these stories that you just described, from, I mean, haute couture to, they have something that is really the opposite of what we're living right now, which is how fast can we create it? How efficient can it be? I mean, you see where I'm getting. I'm getting to the point of AI, and I really want to get your input on how you see this, and especially for the creative work that you do, which is true creative work that you do between Magnum and Lola. Like,
yeah, I guess this is a little bit of, you know, culture and ambition. I think culture, because we've been talking craftsmanship for a while now, so we can understand that this is something that is really embedded in a brand, and it goes into the way we design the pack, the way we make the ice cream, and the way we communicate that. So the communication also needs to be at the same level of the product, at the brand. It needs to have that. So the craftsmanship, and every time that we talk about, creating campaigns for Magnum is like the craft is so important, the director is so important, the treatment, the production, the level of details are as important as the creative idea, because it's part of our brand, it's part of our DNA, and it's also part of the ambition we as an agent and client we have, as we wanted to make the most beautiful work. We want to move people. We want to create something that is truly inspiring. And that requires ambition and really pushing the limit. Like, this is good, but can it be better? Can it be outstanding? And then we always pushing to always be the best we can at the scenario we have. So I guess it's a little bit of the culture of, you need to respect the culture of the product and the level of the brand, and we be in the same level, but also ambition of doing things that really push the needle.
And it's about leaving a lasting impression on your consumers. I think that's something like, it's not a one-off, right? We see nowadays in the media landscape, and even what you're saying, in a very rushed world, right? Where everything is going super fast. I mean, there's something so simple but so beautiful about the moment of indulgence and the moment of pleasure. Why not amplify that more and for people to really understand that? So take the sensorial journey as an example. There's something beautiful about the journey of a Magnum, the first bite, the last piece of chocolate on the stick, there are these elements.
I was waiting for you to come back from the fridge, and I was, I felt it.
You start drooling in a way already, right? Because we were started, and I think that's something so beautiful that we shouldn't lose the essence of what the product brings, but also we should be constantly reminding ourselves of the emotion that something can bring, like that smile on your face, that moment of pleasure. And I think now more than ever important.
Yeah. So if I link to the conversation around AI, what are the things you are definitely open to optimizing and are already optimizing, and things that for you are non-debatable, like in the creative process?
I can, from the agent side, obviously AI for us, it helps us to, because one thing, it's very specific. So what happens is that when you have a creative idea that is so different, it's very hard for you to find references to present to the client in a way that they can understand what is happening, because you don't have footage from other campaigns or videos or photos or anything else that can translate the idea, because it was never done before. So that's very difficult. Having AI, you can generate images or everything that you need to really make justice to the level of the idea, rather than just trying to, create something around it so you can kind of understand, but you're gonna understand for sure after the production. That's not gonna happen. Like, we need to build the excitement around the idea the moment we're presenting the script or the creative idea or just the tagline. So I think AI in this sense help us a lot to visualize and bring to life some ideas that are very innovative that wouldn't be easily done otherwise. I guess also from a strategic point of view, AI definitely helping us to, navigate some of the data and understand where we have some unique perspective, helping us really crack all of the information we have. This, as you're saying, like CMI team shared with us really long presentations. They have a lot of information, and that's good, but among this sea of information, it's very easy for you to get lost or just to land in something that was, top level. If you really wanted to find the right insight, you need to dive deep. And I guess AI can help you really dive in on this data and find something that at the end, maybe it's not like 90% of your consumers say that. Maybe it's just 5%, but that 5% is already interesting enough to become something that is bigger for a broader audience. So I guess it's a little bit of how AI has helped us and where we are non-negotiable, and I guess goes into what we're saying, like we're always not compromising the quality. So if we're going to the execution, the way we're gonna bring it to life, it's a non-negotiable. Like it needs to have the craftsmanship that this brand deserves and the ambition we have also, fitting to that. And right now, the moment we're living right now, that craftsmanship, the only response we have is going to a really, powerful production with, very talented humans.
Yeah. No, I fully agree, and I think just from the Magnum point of view, I think probably if we would have this conversation together like this in a year, it would probably look completely different. At the pace
that's a nice market factor challenge.
Yeah, I think it would be a nice one. I think at the pace and speed that we're moving now, we see AI developing so fast, and we use it for, I mean, insight generation, these type of things, concept creation, you know, like you're saying, even internally, visualizing a concept that you have in your head is easier with AI, right? So we can do those things, but we're testing it until now in a very controlled environment to also understand the learnings and define a bit the future of AI for us and what it means for our jobs, you know. And at the moment, creativity is something we don't want to compromise on, and we will never do that. The same with regards to our product quality and how we talk about it. And in AI, who knows what happens in the future? You know, we don't know how that looks like. But I think at the moment, AI allows us to sometimes also do things more fast, be more agile, you know, in terms of the way we work, and actually spend time at the areas where we can, from a marketeer point of view, can add much more value, you know? So we still have our internal brand experience toolkits and these type of things. But with AI, you potentially could make those things, you know, spend less time on those, not because of the output, but because of specifically the amount of hours it normally takes to create these decks, you know? So there's a lot you can do on finding efficiencies, but there's something about the efficiency in where you spend your time and how AI actually influences that. And I think we're all searching a bit for which area is that specifically. Insight generation, I mean, think about all of the consumer care line data that we have. It's for years of data, you know, like, I think that's really important for us as well to understand, like, what can we do with the data, and, like, you know, and more in terms of like learning from it, you know, and making sure that we improve our product experience towards consumers.
Okay, provocative question. Can you share examples of ads you've seen that you loved and they obviously used AI, and ones that you are questioning that they used AI, and why?
Well, I didn't question, it goes back what we were discussing, that I think AI needs to have a purpose and a creativity. If it's just there trying to mimic what is something that human would make, I guess you lose a little bit of the reason why it's there, or it's just, it strikes me as kind of like lazy, you know? For me, AI needs to have a very clear, for me, Heinz has a great example when they ask AI to create ketchup bottles, they created Heinz. I feel like that's brilliant. That's brilliant, because that's the way they use AI to power a creative idea, rather than, you know, mimic what would be a creative idea. So I guess for me, that's a campaign that I'm not questioning the use of AI. I think like that should be the reference, as AI here has a clear role intrinsic to the idea. If you take AI from this idea, there's no idea left, you know? So I guess that would be a reference for me as a good example.
Bad example?
I guess bad example, well, I guess just for the purpose of, you know, supporting the what I was saying, I think the last campaign from Coca-Cola for the Christmas, I guess they missed the spot, like they kind of like shot on their own feet. Just because I was, and I can say from at least an insider perspective that when I was in Brazil working with Coca-Cola, I did the Christmas campaign, and we did an animation film with the polar bears. And we did it from scratch, like manually. In fact, like I remember one meeting we had with the production house. They said like, oh, can we change the scene as, you know, the polar bear mama, she's gonna do something different. And everyone, the production team was like, we can do, but that half second gonna cost you 200,000. They're like, oh, then let's not change that because we don't have the budget anymore. But you see, like it's very expensive, but it's very expensive because it's a work of art. And I guess when Coca-Cola creates the same feeling, the same aesthetic, the same emotion that first was created by a team of, you know, talent designers and CGI artists, and now it's just 50 different
animals,
but made with 50 different AI generators. Okay, there was a huge craftsmanship that they released it afterwards. It shows, all of their, designer teams using the platforms to really crack but that's for me, like, the effort is not paid, it doesn't bring you the satisfaction at the end. You have this huge thing behind it, crafting, but then the end result, you put all of this work and time to create something that looks like was made by humans. That's, for me, is a miss.
I think especially also in a world where, like, the authenticity of talent, featuring talent, if you start changing the talent into an AI-generated person, something starts to feel less accessible in a way if you switch people or animals into, like, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, like, animals, of course, like polar bears, etc. But if you start working with a lot of it, there's also something right now which I feel, when I look at socials right now, like, there's something like AI fatigue where people are just like, oh, it's again AI.
Especially for interior design. It's
like, oh, this house doesn't even exist.
Yeah, it doesn't, and then it stops being relatable, so it stops having an effect.
It starts to be something that it's not even aspirational anymore. It's just not possible for a house to have in that cave, in that ocean, right? It starts to be something so irrealistic that it's like, it's not humanly capable anymore. And that's where you start to lose the touch. I think an example where they do it quite well, it's not necessarily in a brand, but I think in the beauty and fragrance industry where they use some of the ingredients, I think it shows that AI, for example, when you have a lot of different fragrances, the way you can put ingredient sequences behind it, I think they do it in quite a beautiful way, and it can manifest itself nicely, and you can have 100,000 different type of assets where the ingredients manifest itself in different ways. I think there are examples where, it's all about also making people smell it almost when they see it. And I think AI is quite advanced now in using lavender or whatever, like, I think it's quite cool. And with fragrance, it feels a bit more to me where it can feel an authentic way where you see like the splash or whatever, because it's always how it used to be done in CGI, and right now. So I think there's something more there where you feel when it comes to sensorial smells, that when it comes to those ingredients, like beauty is doing it quite well in fragrance world. With food, I find it a bit more problematic, to be honest. Like when you really talk about the crack of a chocolate, how do you see it cracking? And like, food is not fully there yet. And I think a lot of food brands, I'm curious how that will evolve itself, because product sequences are so important in all of our assets that we're using. How will that evolve? Because at the moment I feel it's not fully there yet. So how can we really like make that work in a way that it remains the authenticity of the sensorial journey that you try to take people on?
The image that just came to my mind is, the fast food burgers that are always used to look perfect, and they connotate for you a kind of lack of quality. And I was just thinking, Magnum shouldn't do that, because if it's too, I don't know, it's the
thing is, like, not one chocolate cracks perfectly in the way of visually, right? So there needs to be like an authentic crack there, like that. I mean, take the bites as an example. Everybody bites it in a different way. If you ask 15 people, how do they eat their Magnum? You have pickers, biters. Pickers are the ones that first eat the outer layer and then start, right? Yeah. So I think there's not one way on how to do that. So I think keeping some of that differentiation in how consumers actually interact with your product is super important. Like even these packs, I can take it as an example. Yeah. The cracks that you see here, they're not the same, because not one crack is the same.
But it's crazy the times that we live in. There was this podcast reel that I told you before coming into the podcast that we just published a reel, and there was a typo in the subtitles. And usually I would have told the team, like, guys, let's pay attention to the mistakes. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, probably she did it herself or himself. They didn't use AI, so that's a good thing. And it's just that you just open LinkedIn and it's just thousands of those posts written with the long AI hyphens, and you just start doubting everything. And human is becoming so.
I guess
I sound very stereotypical. I mean, it's nothing. I'm not saying anything unique, but it's crazy how things shift. Like we used to use automation as a good thing. I see all these brands trying, to be the first to leverage them, and then
I guess in an industry, when you see a campaign or you see a communication or the way we communicate, so I guess the AI, when it makes mistakes, is sloppy, right? Like the AI, when it makes mistakes, when it have an extra finger, you go like, oh no, that's so sloppy. But then when humans make mistakes, it's like, oh, it's real. It's what we're saying, authentic. Like it's a real person. Like real people make mistakes. So I guess it's signal different when it comes from AI. I guess the AI and the expectation is that if you're using AI, do it right. Like do it really. If the sloppy part of the AI is not serving a creative purpose for the idea, then don't use AI. You know, like if you want something to look perfect or it looks polished, do it with your production house. Create a way for you to bring it to life. I guess we always have this kind of discussions that, to have the beautiful asset, you have to have a €1 million production. That's not true. Like you can find really good directors, editors, you know, depends on where you're looking, depends where the aesthetic or what you're trying to bring it to life. Sometimes it can be as expensive or not as using AI with a great designer behind it. Like there's different ways you can bring an idea to life without using AI, you know. I guess AI needs to come in with a real purpose to serve to the idea.
Sometimes it's playing careful. It feels like we're jumping to just do AI for the sake of AI without understanding the potential long-term impact in the brand building effort we've put so much effort in. Like this Christmas campaign and feeling, this anticipation has been built on the shoulders of, I don't know, like for the Coca-Cola company.
It's true.
So many years.
And also huge agencies,
so
creative
sacred.
Directors.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember when I was working on this brief for, you know, Christmas in Brazil, using the polar bears, and it was, there was like an internal pitch among the agents that we used to work with Coca-Cola to see who would get the Christmas brief, because that was the brief you wanted, you know, because not only because from a production budget you could do a lot, but also from a creative perspective, you can do a lot. And then what is Coca-Cola messaging when they do their biggest brief, the most like jealous brief as every creative would have or feel, and do it with AI, you feel like the message there gets kind of lost. You know, you once was held at this stage as the brief, every agent was killing themselves to get it. To be able to create a Christmas Coca-Cola campaign was a privilege. And now, does it hold the same level as the last?
For a very human moment like Christmas, and that's where it backfires, I think. Like all the machine things that make it less human for a very most human moment of the year.
It's very emotional, right? Christmas for a lot of people, like that time of the year. So I think as soon as emotion comes into place and you try to address that with AI, I think it becomes a bit more complicated.
Well, at least at the stage of AI we are right now, yes. I mean, as you're saying, maybe in a year, we're gonna be saying completely different things. But right now, I guess we're saying like maybe sometimes we jump too fast in a trend just because everyone is talking about it without actually understanding what is it serving us or is serving to the industry or what is it signaling to other people, you know?
But I think it's also important, like for example, what you were saying with regards to long-term brand building and how short-term choices can impact long-term brand building is, I think the better you know who you are and who you stand for as a brand, the more consistent you can be while still remaining fresh in how you show up. You know, and I think that's something, never underestimate also the power of the brand and where you came from, and how that consistency can internally feel boring, but is actually very refreshing for consumers in how you show up. And I think if you look at Magnum as a brand, we've been very consistent with our distinctive brand asset. Here and there in certain campaigns, we have been amplifying certain of those elements. And in other campaigns, we have been amplifying other elements of our distinctive brand assets. So I think there, you know, like instead of following trends, creating these universes and ecosystems which allow you to show up where culture is created and do that in a consistent way is something you can also do on the short term. So the obsession of doing every single year something new, etc. What you want as a brand is to be part of the primary consideration set of your consumer when they stand in front of the shelf. And especially in ice cream, which is an impulse category, you want people to think, oh, I feel like an ice cream, I crave Magnum, right? Or I stand in front of the shelf, I feel like something really indulgent, that's Magnum. So I think in terms of driving that mental availability, mixing that with physical availability is really important, because you have your fundamentals, making sure that your product is everywhere. And on top of that, you have driving this mental availability through systems that consumers allow you to recognize in a way. And I think that's so important. So for me, it's all about also driving that consistency and clarity, and almost having that clarity multiplied by courage, right?
I mean, if you just showed me this Find Your Summer campaign, and it had the shape of the Magnum, which is the same shape as all of the private labels as well. But you are confident enough that this is one of our brand assets.
Oh, we're not confident. We know. We have information that when people see this image, they think of Magnum, you know. And I guess that comes into the consideration, as Toby was saying, because I guess when you're consistent enough and you can flex some of these DBAs when needed, but they are so recognizable and so ownable to this brand that when we, for example, test the campaign of Stick to the Original, where we were talking about the private labels, and we asked one question is like, can this campaign be made, like if you take out Magnum logo and put other brand, could it be another brand campaign? Everyone was saying like, no, that's a Magnum campaign. Only Magnum could do something like that.
There are only a few iconic brands that have that, right? If you think about the Coca-Colas of this world, or McDonald's, or even British Airways, you know, like they have a specific type of set of colors, or Nike, or like, you know, they have shapes, colors that are recognized. And as long as you're super consistent with it, you can be confident about showing up. And that's why Find Your Summer works, because we can confidently show up and know that people will recognize that it's a Magnum.
And I guess this is the privilege of being consistent. I guess when you go into marketing that is based on performance, where you're changing your positioning every 1-2 years because now it's not working anymore, let's change it. Or when you don't have a platform that you're building long term, you will end up 10 years talking about product and no brand. And they're having no flexibility to create something like that, or no icon that makes your brand recognizable really fast. And that is really limiting in a way that what can I creatively create if I don't have all of these items or these marketing weapons that we have. You know, we can create a campaign. For example, one of the campaigns that we did, artistic, we created these murals with the artists. The brief was to create something that translated pleasure, beauty, using the shape of an ice cream. So the shape was a shadow, it was a pattern on clothing, it was on details, it was on the scenario. That's only possible because we built this shape over years. It's not something you can create out of nowhere, build that, take out the logo, and everyone's like, oh yeah, that's definitely this brand. Like,
it also feels like a luxury working on a brand like that. That's why I always say, like,
it is.
Our predecessors have been consistent. We can allow ourselves to be consistent. So let's embrace it, because consumers know you because of that. And I think in a world where there's so much stimuli, so much ads are being served to consumers, being consistent in that and having only a second.
Is there an example where we hit and miss? I mean, because it's been 10 minutes of, I feel, a lot of good things about Magnum for a good reason, but if there was there a bet we took that didn't exactly play out, and why?
Well, I guess one of the campaigns that we did, it was, I think last year, right? It was our last year. I guess the miss we had with this campaign was we were really in love with the creative device, which was, these people flying into the air. And I guess as a brand that we were saying, we are always trying to find this global insight in a way that we can talk globally without saying much, because we cannot, adapt VOs everywhere, or having a narrative where have two characters talking with each other. How you localize that after? So we went too conceptual, I guess. And then when you saw, for us, that was inside the brand, that we understood the connection with the product.
With the people jumping.
Yeah, so they crack, and then the moment they crack, they fly into the air, and the moment they're in the air, their clothing fly away, and it reveals that in inner clothing that was marble, beautiful, kind of like showing your inside. Yeah. And it goes
different
back to
layers.
Different layers,
yeah.
And then the product was different layers. From the outside...
It sounds quite complex, yeah.
From the outside, the product was very similar to other magnums, like brownish, but from the inside was very different, had like the zesty flavor, marble ice cream. So it was kind of like a surprise that you can't see from outside. So the inside was pleasure,
Take your pleasure beyond.
Take your pleasure beyond, it was how you translate it, but the inside was, there is more pleasure than meets the eye. Something like that. So the pleasure goes way beyond of what you can see. That was the idea, which is very simple.
Which is also very true, yeah.
Very simple and very connected to the product. But the way we designed the campaign, and sometimes we conceptualize too much, it became very complex. And when we tested, and the consumer was seeing, like, they were not getting everything that we wanted to communicate. They were just seeing people flying in the air and strip chasing, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, the interesting thing on that one is that, and you can apply that on many campaigns, is that as soon as you put multiple layers, literally layers, into a campaign, it's very difficult for people to understand. So sometimes, we love art and we love beauty. And the danger of that is that it can be into multiple layers, because art, has multiple layers when you see it as well, right? The same for something that's so beautiful, or fashion, or like these type of elements. So I think one time as well, like we saw that there was, the gaming world is an occasion where people snack also, and we thought like, okay, let's go after the gaming community and connect with them. And that's still something that we've done in a lot of authentic ways. But we also had one story where we wanted to connect with the oldest gamer in the world, which is a Japanese grandma, actually, and we really wanted to collaborate with her and talk about it, and it had so much layers that it almost became too crazy and difficult to understand. So at a certain moment we said, no, let's not do it, because we can, simply because
like
nowadays...
another old thing.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, these are the things that have so much layers. Iris Apfel even was way more straightforward.
Yes.
Yeah. That was way more straightforward, right? I think that was like, you could see...
Fashion.
But
authenticity.
Yeah.
Pleasure, the handwritten letter. It's, it's very inspiring.
Yeah, I guess when your work gets very complex and complicated is where you lose consumers. I'm not saying consumers are simple creatures, but I'm just saying, like, we have a very short attention span. We are bombarded with thousands of ads every day. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the average person receives over 3,000 notifications every day on your phone. Like, that's a lot of things happening. So if you require consumers to stop, analyze, conceptualize, rationalize your campaign, you already lost.
Just the fact that Netflix in their shows, it's disappointed me so much, the thought that they engineer in the scenario that halfway through the film they repeat through the shows, they repeat the main storyline because people are scrolling and watching.
Yeah, the dual screen.
Like So, last question, because we're running out of time and I'm getting notes. If you both had 58 hours and the best minds possible on the planet in a room with no sleep and to solve a challenge you've had for ages, what is this challenge in?
I think for the Magnum brand, but I think, let me just not put it for the Magnum brand only, but in marketing in general, it's like, at the moment, the media landscape is so fragmented, and we've addressed that earlier, right? There are so many moments in where we get bombarded with content and in terms of how authentic it is. In 58 hours, I would actually love to be in a room with some of the best media and creative people to understand how we can translate some of the content that's being created by consumers into something that's also for consumers. So how can we make that news, that authentic message that consumers have and talk about your brand, how can we make that travel faster? The moments that you need to ask permissions and these type of things, and then in order to put paid media behind it, there's not really a mechanism at the moment where you can do this in a relatively straightforward way. And I feel there's so much fandom out there, right? Where you feel people are truly in love with brands. If we could only capture that fandom and share that with other people and almost multiply that, that would be amazing. I honestly, in 58 hours, I would love to address that challenge together. Okay. To really also make that voice of the consumer heard even more. Because, you know, there's the brand say assets and others say assets. And I think creativity comes together where consumers have a say as well. So I think that combination would be amazing next to all of the amazing work that we're already sharing with consumers. But I think the consumer say is so important, and this fandom and to allow them as well a stage to share their content with, get their following and everything.
Let's do it.
I would love that. Would love it. Yeah.
I guess from my side, as I mentioned before, I guess as a strategist for a global brand, it's always very difficult for us to, you know, find an insight that is global enough to work in every region, but also interesting enough so the different regions can recognize themselves through this insight or see themselves locally, the mindset. I guess if I had 58 hours to solve a problem, I would, you know, bring some of the best minds, cultural-led minds from each of the regions together. And we are always discussing, as you know, the notion of pleasure evolved a lot over the years. Like what is something that is pleasurable or it defines pleasure now? It was different 10, 15 years ago. The way, you know, dopamine, the things we're discussing right now, the different ways social media or platforms we get pleasure from now are obviously changed over time. And for me, the question would be, what is the next 10 years? I guess my challenge is getting to a room with brilliant cultural people from different regions and different backgrounds and defining what is the future of pleasure in 10 years advance. So that's how we can understand some of the trends, some of the things that happen for, I don't know, the last 10 years and project a little bit and understand what is the route here? Where's the opportunity for us as a brand that owns the universe of pleasure to really be local and global, but highly relevant to a topic that is non-stop changing, I guess.
And it manifests itself in different way, pleasure, already nowadays. So getting these cultural insights will be fantastic as well as a brand.
Guys, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us in this great building.
No, thank you for being here.
That it's in its infancy still and on a sunny day in Amsterdam, which is rare.
No, thank you for being here. It's lovely to have you like in this vibrant headquarter of the Magnum Ice Cream Company, and it was an absolute pleasure to be here together with you guys and representing the brand together with our dear agency partners. So thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you, and also giving us the space to open up this amazing platform that you guys are creating.